Hello, BookShark BootCamp. It's your community manager, Jana, and it is finally March, and it is our live. How are you guys doing? How are you feeling? I know that it is a time of year that you can start to feel anxious because you're not nearly as far as you planned or thought you would be. There is a time of excitement because spring is coming, depending on where you live. Maybe it's already there, and you are just ready to get a change in your routine, to be excited, to get outside, start doing some things that you haven't been able to do over the last couple of months. Then there's another group. There is a group who is still in the throes of winter. And for those who are there, I am sorry. I am trying to send you all the sunshine and warmth that I'm currently experiencing here on the southern East Coast. I'll be heading into Colorado next week, and my daughter told me that the weather there is actually going to be warmer than here in North Carolina. So go figure. All of these things, all of these emotions are totally normal. And today we are going to talk about how to finish your year strong with next year in mind. Now, for some of you, you don't even want to talk about next year. You can't even fathom what next year will look like. You're trying to get through today and maybe think about tomorrow. Others, you've already decided what you're going to do for next year. Probably my type A personalities, those who are totally organized and have their pantries alphabetized and all of your labels and boxes are forward facing and lined up. That is not me. But for those of you who have that personality, you're probably like, I already have next year ready in mind or ready to go. I applaud those of you who do. Keep in mind, you still have some time. You may have some things switch. So I want you to hold your next year's plan with an open hand. And for those of you who don't even want to think about next year, maybe turn that hand up and just listen to some of the ideas that we have to get you through finishing strong this year and thinking about next year. Now, my guest today, I'm so excited to bring her on. Her name is Jenny Wells. She is brand new to our team, but she is not new to BookShark or BookShark's philosophy in homeschooling. Jenny spent 12 years homeschooling her 3 kids, building their education around great books, meaningful conversations, and the freedom to follow curiosity wherever it led. Later, while earning her master's degree in educational studies with an emphasis in secondary English education, she was teaching in the classroom for about 3 years to gain some deeper appreciation for how powerful individualized learning can be. So now that Jenny's children are grown, she is helping families discover the joy of possibly homeschooling while living quietly among the trees in Northern California. I hope that you will start to see exactly what I see in Jenny, which is just a wealth of knowledge of homeschooling and really a grace for those of us who may not be as grounded in our approach as she is. So let me bring in Jenny. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here. Nothing I like more than talking to homeschooling parents.
One of the reasons that we love that you're here, I think some of our homeschooling parents get sick of hearing my voice. I know that I do. So bringing in fresh perspective is always important. And you guys, Jenny and I were talking backstage, sometimes you just need fresh perspective. March can feel long. I know February just didn't feel like it was ever going to end for us. So having Jenny come on today with us to talk about finishing strong with next year in mind, really, I hope just brings you a refreshing, just a breath of fresh air as we talk about some of these things and maybe give you guys some tips on how to, again, keep an open hand on some ideas, but then also open up your hand with some of our other ideas. So Jenny, why don't you just briefly, I know I read your bio, but why don't you just briefly tell our bootcamp members and those who are watching, why you are so passionate about homeschooling?
Ooh. Well, if you're tired of hearing your voice, I could talk for a while about that. But I loved homeschooling my children. It was not without difficulties for sure. It's a huge commitment on parents' parts. And I really get that. It, requires showing up every day, and you're navigating so many things. You're navigating sicknesses that happen, and you're navigating getting to the grocery store, and just it's a job for you. And so I just want you to know, first of all, that I really understand that. But also, in my opinion, I have told many parents this. I said, all good parents homeschool. It's just some of them do it between 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. And I want you to be reassured that staying committed to your children each day, even through March, first of all, classroom teachers feel it too. March is the month that they're slogging. So having a lot of grace for yourself, not feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm not providing something that my children need. I want you to be at peace about that, first of all. Second of all, it's a less amount of time. Just keep remembering that what you are accomplishing, it does not have to look like a regular school day. There's plenty of chances to, keep the day simple. And that's what more Jana and I are going to talk about. Um, Individualized learning. So I have had some classroom teachers push back on me about this, saying that it can be provided in the classroom. But in my experience, it cannot. It's impossible to provide individualized learning for 20 something students. And so it is such a gift to your children for them to be at home with you and you being tuned into them, just like you are about things beyond their academics. So that's what I really experienced with my three children, is that each of them really got to follow their curiosities. And I saw that using BookShark materials were excellent springboards for that. And then Jana, I can go into more of, how we did that specifically and why BookShark was like that. So,
Yeah, well, first, let's take a step back and just reassure those who have already started with Bookshark, those who have been using Bookshark for years, or maybe those who are Bookshark curious, why we choose a literature-based approach. What are the, you know, we can talk about like neuroscience and that's important. And I do think some people need to hear that because that's their language. That's what they receive. Just
mhm.
naturally, why are stories such a better way to learn?
Yeah. So I obviously have a great passion for literature. I've owned a bookstore. I've, like Janice said, chose that for my education. And stories bridge gaps between your children's knowledge of their world and so many other people's world. And it's really an entry point for their hearts and minds to get engaged with people outside themselves. Um, I feel very strongly that literature teaches children about themselves and it teaches them empathy for others. Bookshark is very committed also to different cultures, which I really appreciate because, we lived in a small town and my children, all their friends were pretty much similar in to our lives. And so it really gave them an opportunity to get to know other people. I also feel like literature is an excellent springboard for you to be able to be inspired. And if you're inspired, your children will become inspired. So stories are really something that you two can engage in, or you and your children can engage in together. So much better than, for example, sitting at a kitchen table for hours and working through textbooks and workbooks.
Because I can't think of anything I would rather do. I will do anything else than sit with just something that is uninspiring. Now, ironically, I
Mhm.
actually do enjoy some textbook reading. I mean, I even did when I was homeschooling as in my adolescence. There's a part of my brain that just really enjoys that. but only if I'm interested in the topic, only if
Mhm.
I'm passionate. I kid you not, my husband and I the other day at the dinner table were reading an educational piece about the history of capitalism. And
Mm.
I mean, just I'm like, we're such nerds. Like, but to me, it wasn't nerdy in the moment. It was like, I'm really interested in this. Let's keep going. And
Mhm.
so we just we talked about it. And over the years with my children, I have gotten excited about like some of the most boring things, like maybe the idea of capitalism or the history of that can be incredibly tedious to some. But you're right, when we're interested in it and we're passionate about it, it's contagious. Like even my
Mhm.
husband, who's like not even like super into reading academic pieces, like he just let me keep reading and he's like had comments about it and we had this dialogue and our 16-year-old came in and sat down and she was engaged in it. And so yeah, like just being able to share that, whether it is in story form, which tends to be a lot easier for most people, is story form. But that same idea of just like shared passion, shared emotion, shared excitement when we're learning about things that maybe if it was just read in a factual way, wouldn't necessarily have that same effect.
Yeah. And, Jana, I feel also really strongly about, whatever stage your children are in as far as their age. First of all, those that are 8 and under, like, their imagination is so precious. And being able to give them stories and helping expand their world in imagination is just really precious to be a part of. So even though that can be a really busy time of life, um, being able to do read alouds together or exposing them. One thing I also love about BookShark is that, Jana, a lot of, we use Usborne, which I think it's called something different now. We use Kingfisher, these books that are so richly um, illustrated. And it's just, to me, when I owned my bookstore, I used to say to people, books aren't going out of style. And if you generationally, if I would talk to grandparents or whatever, if you're exposing your children to stories that they're listening to and stories that they're reading, but also the art, I feel really strongly about the beauty of
Mhm.
art, especially in picture books and things like this. And so I'm thankful that Bookshark provides those too.
And it's important to note that even as we're talking about imagination, one could think, well, if they're looking at a picture, they're not using their imagination. It's being formed for them. But I would argue that's just the jumping off point.
Mhm.
They get to picture the still, but it now they have like a place to go when they are starting to imagine as you're continuing to read and the story's happening. It's fluid in their mind. That picture is now moving and they're imagining the different pieces and the different parts. So don't feel like illustrations or pictures are going to take away from the imagination, because it really almost for me kind of in a way relieves, like, okay, now I don't have to imagine that, the basics, because now I know what the character looks like or where they're at in in the scene. And so now I can kind of use my imagination to let it go further as the words are being read. So yes, I think it works for all of it. And it's just such a different part of our brain than a
Mhm.
moving picture or a 3-second reel, or we all know what I'm talking about as we are pulled into this struggle of technology and the grip that it has on all of us. I mean, if you're
Mhm.
under a, I don't think you would be on a live content or watching a video if you weren't in some way affected by technology. And while reading has become less and less a leisure that people do, like it's just not something that they typically choose anymore, it is so important as educators to our children and to continue learning for ourselves the need to use our imagination and not let somebody else tell us all the time how to picture it.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't want to just stick with the 8 and under, but I just wanted to mention one of the books I believe, Jana, that I have kept over all of these years is the Richard Scarry Please and Thank You book that's in the lower level. And Richard Scarry, like if you have the book Cars and Trucks and Things That Go, like that's a whole world that opens up to your kids. And I just remember that even from my own childhood of just how fun it was to recreate those worlds and have them in my mind. So just wanted to mention that book in
Yeah,
specifically.
yeah, it's I love that we use a lot of classics and that we've done a lot of research to pull in some more modern and really working with what we have available now. The more material that comes out, we're able to kind of go through that and see what fits our methodology, that it is modern, right? That does speak to maybe more real world issues that are closer to our time period. Sometimes with the classics, I know they're universal and I think they're timeless for sure. I'm actually reading
Hmm.
Wuthering Heights right now. So, and they just spend billions of dollars on a new movie for that one. But knowing, like back to you were saying, the time and culture, reading books about different cultures and different time periods, and realizing that we're not, I just loved being able to help my girls focus outward and say,
Hmm.
okay, this is how you live is not how everyone lives. And what do you mean? Like, okay, reading these stories, we jumped in with my twins at level F, which was Eastern Hemisphere, still hands down my favorite level. I've done it twice. And the books that we read and talked through, just being focused on the other side of the world was really an amazing experience. Plus, that being our first year with BookShark, I think just solidified it for us. We were like, oh my gosh, this is the way we need to go.
Hmm.
And just being able to share that with each other, that experience. So again, for those who are feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to finish, we're so far behind, we can't do this, I can't even think about buying next year. I don't want you to think about it. You don't have to be
Hmm.
done by a certain time. Now, for those of you who use a lending library or you do have to return things, we kind of talked about, and I'll reiterate, you are able to make copies of your IG for personal use. So if you have to give things back, you can find the book at the library. If the library doesn't have it, which I know even from like coast to coast, you're able to request books. And if they don't have them, a lot of times they can borrow them from somewhere else. Or if you're just at the end of your year and you may just need to purchase a book or two to feel like you're going to be able to finish up after you have to return things, there's lots of ways that you can do that. So don't feel like you want to give up, because I understand there are times that you do feel that way. But if you're not having to give anything back, know that when you decide to end this year and start your next year, you just pick up right where you left off. You guys, this is the beauty of the way that BookShark is created, but also the way homeschool works. It doesn't have to be the end of the year. That's it. We're done with this level. We have to start the next level. Not at
Hmm.
all. Like, take your time and enjoy it. Jenny, when you were going through this with your family, were you the type of family that was like on it and finished and started up just right on time every year?
So this time of year was difficult. I actually always started on August 1st because I had the most enthusiasm and the summer heat was getting to me and I wanted to be just focused at that time. So yes, by time March, April came around, it was tricky. But one thing that we did, and maybe families already do this, but we would read outside a lot. Once the sun came out, we would sit on the deck and just enjoy the sun. And one thing, Jana, about read alouds is that we don't have to be sitting on a couch with our children shoulder to shoulder. My kids, they played with Legos while I read. They sketched while I read. Um, we even had a mini trampoline because I had two sons. They have a lot of energy, especially when they're younger. One of the reasons I did keep them out of classroom school. And we had a mini trampoline, and they would jump on that trampoline while I read aloud. So there's lots of ways for children to have the language be exposed to them, even if they're busy doing something else. So, and they would take their readers outside and sit in a hammock, or we happen to have a tree house, or just, building a fort in the living room and having them do their readers in there. Just letting them express themselves. So that's what I would tap into this time of year, is just giving us some of that freedom. And then, Jana, if I could just speak to the parents who are involved in a charter, because sometimes the charters can hold our feet to the fire a little bit more. So is it okay if I kind of go down
Oh,
that
for
route?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was involved with charters here in California. And one thing that I would hope that you could remember is that to be, they need you as much as you need them. So, in other words, schools are funded based on your participation, right? So they need to be doing what serves you. So, for example, my teacher, she understood that. And so we personally only had to turn in 2 samples per subject a year, so, or every semester. And so, you know, do what you have to do to jump through their hoops, but also don't feel like you have to be a slave to them. You can be in charge. And so don't, I hope this is okay to say, Jana, feel free to interrupt me, but doing the minimal that they expect, and then accepting that you have freedom as a family to go beyond that as much as you want to. So, yeah, I hope that
Yeah, and
helps.
I think that goes right along with our philosophy. It's like BookShark offers you all of these amazing things, but don't do what doesn't work for you. We,
Mhm.
can kind of talk about like family learning style. Like you guys wanted to be out in nature. I was definitely one who wanted to be outside my house. The house to me felt like the million things I had to do. And so, in order to really focus and enjoy what I was doing with my girls, it needed to be outside of our home, which is kind
Mhm.
of funny because, like, yes, you need to be home to homeschool, but you don't. You just have to have the mindset of learning wherever you're at. So reading aloud, like, and building that culture of like, what do you guys like to do together? I remember one day I was just to the girls, I was like, okay, we're going to the zoo. Now the zoo is a 45-minute ride into the city. And I was like, well, we'll get done whatever we get done. And at one point, after we always had like same like the way we went and the things we looked at, and we did the carousel. And then all of a sudden I pulled out from my backpack a blanket, and my girls were like, what are you doing? And I was like, we are going to do our read aloud in the middle
Mm.
of the zoo right
Yep.
here. And it was a very fun read aloud at that. It was like the Sir Ballad's Misadventure or something like that. It was like a super fun story. And it's those kind of things. Like it wouldn't be unusual for us to just read aloud wherever we were at because that's what we
Mhm.
wanted to do in that moment. And then it's like exciting and kind of thrilling and out of the ordinary, out of at least your routine. But the family style is always there. It's like, okay, we're going to read. Mom's always going to like ask us questions and not quiz. I didn't ever quiz my girls, but I always wanted to like engage and go further because my mind was
Mhm.
always like, what did you think? How'd you feel about that? Should he have done something different? Like, I look back now and sometimes I'm like, my poor girls. They're probably like,
Oh.
why is our mom not medicated for her ADHD? But we just had, I mean, it was just ways to build momentum. And then, as you're finishing up, if this is your first year or your first literature based program, you're setting the stage for next year. So you've gotten outside the box literally of your four corners of your home. You've gotten some fresh new places, some fresh air. And then when September rolls around or the cold weather starts coming in next year, you have this routine that won't be nearly as hard to stick to because you've already been doing it for a while. It's gonna that reading, whether it's in front of the fire, on the couch, outside, at the zoo, it's going to happen, and it's going to engage your children, and they're going to be learning regardless. And I think that is something that I absolutely love. At my girls in college, we still talk about books like all the time. So
Yeah. Yeah. I also, you've mentioned, Jana, that sometimes you would do the books kind of as a bedtime routine or an evening routine. And I know the majority of the homeschoolers are moms. So it's an opportunity for dad to get involved, and also listening to books in the car would work for us too. And so, I know there's apps out there that you can borrow books from the library that would give you audio option as well. And I'll just mention too that this really works, Jana, for all learning styles. Um, so I know this is just my experience, but also just knowing just the way that the brain works. So my 27-year-old, he pretty much listened to books since he was about 6. He still doesn't like to sit with a book and use his eyes, but he still listens to audio classics now, and he's the one that is the most he really understands literary criticism. I'm amazed at what he comes up with as far as when he's analyzing stories. And, he's a computer science nerd. So it's not like it was, part of his, it's not like he's an English teacher now or something. But that's something that really stuck with him. And I feel really strongly about that, just as literature in general, just whatever field your child might go to, or, have a bend towards, literature can play a role in whatever their learning style is.
Yeah. And some of the apps that Jenny is referring to, there is Libby, just off the top of my head. There's Hoopla. There is Overdrive. So if you are wondering, like, I don't want to pay for one more thing, or I have these books in print, so why would I want to pay for something else? There are so many books that we use that are classics that are available on different audio books. And let me also say that for some people, the narrator, it makes or breaks an audiobook. So if you don't like how the audiobook is sounding, and you may have some kids that it's like nails on a chalkboard, certain voices, that is totally fine. Usually you can find another audiobook with a different narrator, especially with a lot of the classics. So just keep that in mind. Because some people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't like it, I couldn't stand the voice. And I was like, oh my goodness, you just needed to find another version, because there would have been somebody else that had a different voice. So don't give up on that just yet. But we really do just want to encourage you guys, as you're finishing up this year's curriculum and you're thinking about summer break, hopefully, one of my colleagues said the other day, is it too early to be thinking about the weekend? And I was like, I think about the weekend every day. So no, it's not too early to be thinking about, people are like, let us have spring break, Jana. And I'm like, I'm already thinking about summer, you guys. So it's not too early. You're doing, if you're putting in the time and your kids are making progress and there's growth there, then that is learning. And you may not be as far along in the curriculum as you had hoped, but that doesn't mean that you've cheated your kids in any way, or that they are not learning. Those read alouds, reading with your kids, engaging with your kids in critical conversations, does more than you can see right now. But progress is what we want to just keep informing you guys on. Are you seeing progress? Are you moving forward? That it doesn't matter at what pace. For some, it may, but we're saying it doesn't matter as homeschool moms when you're looking at your kids. If you're seeing growth, if you're seeing progress, that is way more important than perfection or finishing or checking every box that you may or may not get to. And just remember that as we're talking about literature and the read alouds and the books that they're reading on their own, that lives inside of them. Those stories are going into their brains. And again, there's science behind this. We could do a whole nother episode about the science to this, but it is getting inside of their brains. And it is like their brain at this point, so impressionable that this stays with them. And it may not seem like they're engaged in the moment. Like you ask them a question, they're like, oh, what? I don't know. He just sat on the log. I don't know, for an example. But rest assured, just keep at it. It's in there. It's going to come out. They may not verbalize it. They may not be communications, degrees like I have, but it is in there. Like Jenny had said, her son is a science and does computer science. So don't be worried about that. I just want to touch on a few things. As you guys think about next year, BookShark it's called Go Live, and it's when we release all of our updated versions. If we've changed anything, if we've added anything, and if we have new products, that's always April 1st. So for those of you who have been asking when is a good time to purchase, I always say, if you're looking for the latest and greatest, wait for April 1st. Now, with that being said, we also have a brand new high school modern literature course that's coming out. It will be live on our site on April 1st, and I'm super excited about it. There's books on there that I have read and books on there that I have not read, and that's like I love to go through what we offer at different levels and see the things that I want to put on my book list. Jenny, have you seen any of the books that you were like, oh man, I need to put that one on my list?
Oh, you know what? My to be read file or pile is it's kind of ridiculous. I almost love book lists more than books. It's the strangest thing. So I love looking through it. I can't think of a specific one right now. But yeah, I love it. I love looking at a book list and thinking, oh, look at all the potential worlds that I can enter into. So
Yeah. I know one in our new modern lit that I have not read that is going on my list is The Old Man and the Sea. I've not
mm,
read that one before. So
mhm,
super excited
yeah.
to get that one going. Um and then for the families who are wondering where to go next year. So you finish your level or you're close to finishing your level or you're going to pick up your level in the fall and finish it and want to know what would be next. At BookShark, we just say go to the next level.
Mhm.
So if you have more specific questions about that, we do have our advisors who are available, homeschool moms like ourselves using the product who would love to chat with you. I will make sure that I put that in a post so that you guys know how to get a hold of them if you have more questions about that. But just know that we just say go to the next one. If you did A, go to B. If you did B, go to C.
Mhm.
It's that simple. It
Mhm.
is not complicated. High school, you can kind of jump around and pick and choose depending on if they're doing any dual enrollment, if they're doing classes outside of your home. So that gets a little bit more complicated or not. I don't find it complicated at all. So call, chat, talk to me if you're thinking about high school or what that could look like. But it's just going to the next level. Also, in April, we will give you guys BootCamp members. So this is for our Facebook BootCamp members only. We will give you guys a coupon for your next year's purchase. That will be available April 1st. You can use it in May and June. April, May, and June. So be looking for that. If you are wondering, like, should I wait? Why should I wait? That might be one reason. And for those of you who are out and about and are thinking about a homeschool convention, just know that Jenny will be at some of them with BookShark, as well as myself and our advisors. You guys, we have some such great fun reps that go out and want to talk to you about BookShark and hear about your experience and share their personal experiences as well. We have some convention lists that is on our main page. I will also link that so you guys can take a look. And if you are in the area and you want to come by and say hi to us in the booth, we always have some free swag and just fun to say hi and check us out. But next month in April, Maddie will be coming on with me, and we're actually going to talk about some of the places that we're going to go this year, some of
Mm.
the exciting things that we're going to be doing in the booth, and some of the adventures that we tend to have as we are out and about traveling for BookShark. So I'm super excited for that. Jenny, do you have any last closing thoughts for us before we head out?
I wanted to just say that I feel like BookShark, I believe my experience is that BookShark is excellent even if you have a wide range of ages. So there was 5.5 years between my oldest and my youngest, and we were able to make it work. And so that's another thing I would talk to advisors about, is your particular situation and how you can combine things and have it not feel like such a, have it feel like a burden. So
Yeah.
that came to mind. Yeah. And I hope to see some of you at the convention. So, come and get your hands dirty, get to see the actual. I know there's a lot online, but there's something about getting to talk one on one with us and really get to see and feel our books and instructor's guide and getting to see some of the kits too and the way that we do science experiments and things like that.
Yeah, it's always fun to see things. I don't know. I'm an in-person shopper. I
Yeah.
shop online if I have to, but I would much rather be seeing it and feeling it and touching it. Jenny made a great point about combining students. For families who maybe this year didn't combine, are feeling overwhelmed, there are ways that we can help you kind of cut down some of your load if you are doing
Mhm.
it that way. So please do reach out. We want this experience to not only be amazing for your children, but also for you. Like, if it's good for your kids, they have a great education, okay, that's a win. If you can enjoy it, that's like phenomenal. And if your family walks away from your experience with BookShark as lifelong learners, then we have reached our goal here at BookShark. Thank you guys so much for being on with us today. Jenny, thanks for being here. We're excited to see you more.
Yeah, I'd love it. I'd come back anytime. So
All right,
thank
you
you,
guys,
Jana, as well.
until next time. Bye.